Welcome to my next game of General Darmé. We're playing the Assault on Vitoria, the last game in Dave Brown's Vitoria scenarios. This represents Wellington doing the final assault on the ridgeline, Joseph's final line of defence, after he had successfully conducted a number of other sort of flanking attacks. Hopefully this will be an enjoyable game today. I did a brief video last night of the setup, just to have a quick overview of the table again. Here we have the French forces, artillery to the fore on the ridgeline, supported by French infantry brigades and Joseph's reserve, his Royal Guard, in the rear there, and facing off against them a number of British infantry brigades, and British also have a substantial amount of cavalry in support. So, we'll get on with the game. We're going to do a couple of rounds of pre-game artillery fire, as the table's only 4 foot wide and I'd rather be playing this on a 6 foot wide table, but I wanted the width today, so we've gone with a 10 by 4 rather than a 6 by 6 layout. So we'll do some artillery fire to reflect the casualties caused as the British forces moved up into the assault. So we'll come back once we've done those and I'll give you a quick summary. Okay, so we've done 3 turns of opening fire from the French and the British, and actually the French have done pretty well. If you look on the table, the smoke markers are delays that are impacting those 2 brigades. The one on the right, as you see it on the screen, has got a delay of 1 turn, and the one on the further one, the one on the left, more to the left, has 2 turns of delay. They were caused by falter tests in the approach marches by those infantry battalions. As you can see, there's now somewhat of a gap in the centre. One of the British regiments was hit by artillery fire on the very first turn and failed its falter test and retreated effectively off its own baseline. So that one has not appeared and won't appear during the game, as that happened in the first turn. Otherwise, there are a number of battalions that are slightly ragged in appearance. They're unformed as a result of artillery fire. And the 95th Rifles particularly have taken heavy casualties. They've taken 6 from sustained French artillery fire, and one of the other British battalions has taken 5 casualties. In return, we've got some casualties on the French units. This battalion out the front here, unformed and also taken 5 casualties as the British started softening up the attack. But we're seeing the French advantage of only really needing to issue artillery assault orders because the rest of their units were stationary, whereas the British forces were also giving themselves infantry assault orders as well as artillery assault orders to shake themselves out and get themselves ready for this attack. So less intense fire from the British. Alright, we'll move on with turn 4, first real turn of the game, and we'll just get Charlie in to give us some opening orders. Okay, so we're just rolling for ADCs, so Charlie, you get 6 dice. Roll for ADCs for those. My gosh, they're all activated. Because you've got Wellington on the table, you get another dice, automatically. Automatically.
I just never AC.
Yeah. And then you get 4 dice for your 4 off-table brigades, needing 5s or 6s. That's 1 more ADC, and 1 more to roll. That's it. So that's your number of ADCs. And for the French, I only get 7 ADCs, because Joseph is really not a very good commander. So I actually lose 1 of my allocation. Okay, so I've got 5. Right, we'll allocate those ADCs and then sort our orders out. Okay, so we've just rolled for activation, and for the French, not a great turn. We've got a couple of hesitant brigades. Fortunately, both of them are our reserves. So the reserve infantry and reserve cavalry for Joseph are hesitant, as is one of my dragoon brigades. That's hesitant. Charlie, did you get any hesitant brigades?
No.
No, so no hesitant brigades for the British. Let's roll for initiative then, Charlie. Rolling for the French. We got an 8. British get an 8 as well. I'm on -3, so that takes me down to 5, so the British have initiative. What are going to be your orders, Charlie?
I don't know yet.
Okay, we'll have a think. Okay, Charlie, we've got some orders now. So what do you want to do?
I'm going to send these 2 infantry battalions forwards against these 2 lines, and I'm going to have one of them, here, this one, to form square in front of the cavalry, so the cavalry can't move out of their place there. where their position,
Yeah.
so they won't be able to move. And this brigade's going to follow on with them. My rifles are just going to try and push up and shoot them. Same with these troops. All my infantry up here are really going to reform and then push up. But they're going to, ones who aren't unformed are going to push up. And these ones are just going to try and attack the village.
Okay, that's great. Right, we'll give you a chance to go and get dressed. And we'll crack on with turn 4 movement. Allies to move first. So starting at the right-hand flank for the British, movement's underway in turn 4. British skirmish screen on the right has moved up to start engaging the French skirmishers in front of the village, and 2 battalions of KGL have moved forward. As we move along, the Portuguese left-hand battalion has reformed and the right-hand battalion has started to advance, and the 3rd battalion has started to reposition itself slightly to try and get itself out of bounce through fire, and because it's less than 50% behind the unit, which is in front of the guns, it's achieved that. So Portuguese getting ready to start the assault. In the centre, the British battalions here have started to advance, and their unformed battalion, which has taken quite heavy casualties, did do a voluntary retire. So it's taken itself out of the front line. Because we deemed the gaps were all more than 6 inches to avoid bounce through, it didn't unform its colleagues as it fell back, so it's fallen back towards its baseline unformed, taking an extra casualty. In the centre, we've got an ammunition wagon has arrived because we went low on ammo. First time I've remembered to implement that rule, so under Charlie's artillery assault roll last turn, he rolled a double 1, took casualties and went low on ammunition in that battalion. The rifles in the centre are still delayed coming onto the table. One more turn before they can actually take up their positions on the table there, as they have 2 hesitant results in turns 2 and 3. And then as we move across to the left, British assault starting to get underway here. The left-hand flank battalions are moving forward, and the rifles and the 52nd Light are starting to move away in support of them. On the French side, not much movement. We've moved our dragoons forward to start to threaten the Allied left flank. The dragoons are pretty weak units. They're only battle cavalry, they're small units, and I think they're only line quality. So we haven't got great hopes of being able to break the British square, but we've moved up close enough so we may be able to get a charge off without them forming square. Next turn we'll see. May not be able to, but in any event, hopefully we can stall the assault this flank this turn. Otherwise, various other French battalions have just reformed as a result of artillery fire, but no other movement along the line. Okay, we'll do firing for turn 4. Okay, rolling for British artillery fire. The left-hand battery is firing at the French line battalion in the centre there. First shot, an 8, that is at long range, 1 casualty. We'll mark that up in a second. The battalion on the artillery battery in the centre here, I assume not going to fire this turn as it's replenishing its artillery supply. And finally, the final British battalion battery here will do some counter-battery fire against the French battery on the hill. And 8 minus 1 is a 6 at long range, minus 2 rather. At long range is a 6, which will be half a casualty. Let's see if we do that. 4, yeah, that's 1 casualty on that artillery battery. I'll mark that up, and we'll now do some skirmish firing. Alright, starting with the British skirmish screen on the right hand side. 3 to 4 bases are 3 dice. Firing at skirmishers is only 2 dice, so needing a 5 or a 6. No casualties, again, needing a 5 or a 6 on 2 dice for this screen here. No, nothing. And then for this screen here, needing a 5 or a 6 on 2 dice. Nothing. That was pretty ineffective for the British skirmishers. And then the British rifles will open up. They are still effectively off table. I will let the skirmish screens exchange fire now. Okay, so because they're rifles, they get an extra dice, needing 5s or 6s. That's a better roll. 2 hits against the French skirmish screen. And that's it for skirmisher fire for the British. Back in a second for the French fire. Okay, we'll start with the French artillery. This battery in the centre is going to again fire. Can't fire at the 95th Rifles because it's now screened by its own skirmishers. That was a bit unfortunate. It'll do some counter battery fire against the British artillery battery opposite it. That's at long range. A 7 goes down to a 5. That's half a casualty. No, nothing at all. Right, we'll then do the French skirmishers against the 95th Rifles. That'll be just 2 dice, either 5s or 6s. 1 and a 2, no, nothing. Then we've got the French artillery. We're going to again have a go at those British battalions that are advancing towards them. We are on artillery assault, so I'm just getting a couple of extra dice. The red ones will be the artillery fire dice. These guys are now firing, I think probably still at long range. I'll just stop for a second, we'll just check the ranges. Okay, I was wise to check. Actually, the batteries are now both in effective range. So we're going to start firing at the green flagged artillery battery. We're going to concentrate fire on that one. Being an artillery brigade, we're able to. That's not great. That's a 3 for the French, which I think is a fatigue casualty, which actually becomes 2 fatigue casualties because we're doing artillery assault. So that right-hand battery can no longer fire assault fire because it will have taken 4 casualties. And we'll fire the second one. That's an 8 at effective range. It's effective range, and 8 is 2 casualties plus 1 for the artillery dice. So could have been better. 3 casualties against the green British battalion, and unfortunately 2 fatigue casualties for myself. Okay, again we will fire this artillery battery. I think it's all right to fire at that Portuguese battalion that's in front of it. Again at effective range. We get 3. That's another fatigue casualty for the artillery. And 1 casualty on the artillery dice. So they're on 2. And 1 casualty for the Portuguese. Right, I will just mark these up before I forget. Okay, and now firing the rest of the French skirmisher screens. This screen here behind the hedgeline. That's 1 casualty on the British. The next screen, firing at the skirmishers from the Portuguese. That was nothing. And then the final screen, it's only got 2 skirmishers here, so only 1 dice. Again, that's nothing. So 1 casualty to mark up on the Allied skirmishers. Okay, let's start, Charlie, with Allied activation. Start at this end of the line with this brigade here. They're active. The rifles and the 52nd. Active. Your artillery assault. Active. Oh, yeah, and that means the brigade next to them are active as well.
Oh, I keep them doing
that. Yeah, because you've got a spare one. Because the artillery is actually attached to that brigade.
These guys?
These guys are that brigade, but you've got a reroll. Ah, they're hesitant. So this brigade.
They can't still shoot at the target I wanted to shoot
at. Yeah, and then the Portuguese.
They have a reroll that
active, and then the KGL with a reroll. Well, a KGL hesitant as well. And then you've got some dice for your cavalry reserve. Should we roll for those?
Mm-hmm.
Hesitant. Did you put a reroll on them?
Yeah, I have 2.
Okay.
Yep, come on.
Okay, so we've got 2 hesitants. We'll mark those up. Okay, so while Charlie is deploying his light cavalry division on from his reserve roll, I'm going to roll for my French. So starting with my dragoons are active. My second unit of dragoons are active. My brigade in the village is hesitant, and I didn't give it a reroll, so we'll leave that dice in front of it, so you remember. Then we've got artillery assault. We do have a reroll because the brigade had artillery assault on it.
Still
hesitant, so I don't get artillery assault off. That's a bit of a blow. So then I'll take the artillery assault marker off that battery. And there. Alright. Hesitant marker on this brigade. Okay. So these ones aren't. Alright, we'll roll for this brigade in the centre. They're hesitant. My artillery's got a reroll, is active. My guard cavalry is active. My guard is active. My brigade here is active, and my brigade in the village is active. Alright, so that's one more hesitant marker for me to put down. Okay, rolling for initiative in turn 5. We're in turn 5? Yeah, turn 5. Wow, good rolls by both. I thought I got initiative, but no, Charlie's pulled it off. We are both on -2, so the British have initiative this turn. Alright, we'll start with charges and then normal moves. Okay, we're now doing the charge results for Charlie's light dragoons charging the French.
We're both the same, but...
I'll just check the stats for both sides. Alright, so I'm line, Charlie is grenadiers, so he gets a better morale check. I'm campaign cavalry, Charlie is battle cavalry. Alright, let's do this. We're both supported, so we both get 1 re-roll.
Do not, because that's from a different brigade.
No, I've got a unit at the front and then I've got a supporting unit behind. They are small though. So I'll roll mine. So I get an 8.
I get a
10. This looks good for Charlie. Alright, let's do the modifiers. Your morale grade is 1 grade higher because you're grenadiers, so you go up to 11.
Yeah.
Are you attaching your general to the charge?
Yeah, I don't know what my
We
general
need to get
is.
a general. He's over on the side over there,
Oh, yeah.
Charlie.
Okay. He's going to attack it.
Attached to the front unit.
So now I'm on 12.
I will, yeah. Okay. You've got a narrower frontage than me, so you take 1 off.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm on 8. I've got my general attached, that makes me 9.
Your campaign cavalry.
I'm cavalry, that makes me 8. And that's it. So what did you get at the end, Charlie?
11.
So you won by 3. Cavalry versus cavalry. Attacker melees with a land. We melee unformed. Okay, starting with Charlie. Your shooting phase.
I'm going to fight your skirmishers.
Okay, I think you've got 3 dice.
And rifles.
Yeah, only 3 bases can fire, which give you 3 dice, but you get an extra 1 for being rifles, but you lose 1 because I'm skirmishers.
2 casualties.
2 casualties, alright. We'll pop a 2 against that unit and mark them up in a second.
And my artillery.
Yeah, which is on artillery assault. What are you going to fire at?
At them.
Okay, are you your own skirmishers, I think, are probably in the way.
No. They're barely not in the way.
Let's have a look.
If I shot...
No, they're going through your own skirmish screen. I think you have to do counter battery fire against my artillery.
There's only one guy
I
in the
would
way.
let you fire at the rear.
There's only one guy in the way. How would that stop a whole shell?
You won't. It won't, but you don't shoot at your own troops, Charlie.
I could just shoot from up here and it would go through.
Mind you, it's long range and skirmishers aren't impacted by long range. Yeah, alright, I'll let you fire through the skirmishers. 3, fatigue casualty. In fact, that's 2 fatigue casualties because you're on artillery assault.
Is it?
Yes.
Why is it 2?
Because you double it if you're on artillery assault, because they're working even harder.
1 casualty.
1 casualty. Okay. How many casualties is that on the artillery battery now then, Charlie?
They're on 4 now.
Okay, so they can't do artillery assault anymore. Right, we'll mark up the casualty on my battalion. They go up to 7.
My other battery
Right.
is still at long range. They're the exact same position.
Yep.
So I'm going to fire the same battalion.
Okay.
That's 8.
Okay, I think at long range that might be 1 casualty, don't you, Charlie?
Yes, it's 1 casualty.
Yeah.
My skirmishers are going to fire at your...
My skirmishers, so that's 2 dice.
Yep. 1 casualty.
Okay. Dice down.
So these skirmishers get 2 dice too.
Yep.
2 casualties.
Okay, and then the final ones.
My other one's going to fire, yeah, the same.
2 dice.
1 casualty.
Okay.
And my artillery up here
Yep.
is going to fire... Can it fire at your troop behind the artillery? Because...
No, they're behind the crest of the hill. You can fire at the artillery on the hill. You've got to fire at the closest target anyway. So it'll be at -2.
-2, okay.
Yeah.
8.
So it becomes a 6. That's half a casualty roll there.
No.
No. Alright, let's mark these casualties up. Alright, stand by your casualty markers, Charlie. We'll do some French return fire. Starting up here. 1 casualty on the skirmish screen there.
Oh, okay. Next one.
Okay, next one is 2 dice. 1 on the next skirmish screen.
1 of these ones.
Yeah. I'm going to do all my skirmishes first. And these guys, 2 dice. Nothing. These guys, 2 dice. 1 casualty on the 95th Rifles.
The 95th Rifles?
Yeah. And then these guys against the other skirmishers. And 1 casualty on the skirmishers that are also for 95th Rifles. Okay, and then I'll do my artillery fire. Okay. This battery is hesitant, but we are going to fire at the 95th Rifles at long range, using Charlie's logic that I'm just skimming the end of the skirmish screen and also can fire at it. That's an 8, which is 1 casualty.
It's half a casualty at long range.
No, 8's 1. That was for them, and then just increase that 1 by 1. Right, my artillery batteries in the centre. They are going to both fire at the green flagged unit, which I think is the closest. An 8 at effective range, and a 5 at effective range.
5 is nothing.
At effective range, that was actually 2 casualties for the 8 and 1 casualty for the 5, so that's 3 more casualties on the green flagged British unit there. And then we're going to fire at the Portuguese battalion advancing towards the guns. And that's a 9, which I think is 2 casualties and possibly a discipline test at effective range. Right, Charlie, and then the discipline test on that Portuguese battalion, how many casualties is it now taken?
5.
Okay, so a test at -1. That's unformed. Alright, I think that's the end of the firing. Let's get on to the first hand-to-hand combat of the game. Hand down the table, and it's Dragoons against Light Dragoons. Alright, we'll get the table and look at the modifiers. Okay, so Charlie gets 7 dice for this combat here. He's got a bonus of 1 for meleeing with a LAN, and a bonus of 1 for... what was the other one, Charlie? Being battle?
Yeah. No, being elite, morale above you.
Being a morale grade above me. I start on 5, I lose 1 for being unformed, so 4, but I am heavy cavalry, so I get +2, so I'm on 5. Alright, needing 4 5s or 6s to do casualties. The French get 2. And the British get...
1.
1, my gosh. Alright, so on cavalry versus cavalry, melee results table of 1. Winners take the ground, losers retreat.
I don't think that is right.
That is right. We'll check it in a second. Okay, somewhat to mine and Charlie's surprise, the French cavalry managed to win that one. We might see the British elite heavy cavalry arrive on this flank, having had the light cavalry repulsed, but we'll see. But Charlie's deployment of a 3rd regiment as a sort of fallback line worked well because he stopped his retreating units falling back off the table edge, which was good. So both the losing unit and its support have retreated behind that other unit of light dragoons, and my dragoons have moved forward to take the position. Alright, I think that's it. That's the end of turn 5. We'll move on to turn 6 and do ADCs in a second. So Charlie was remarkably unlucky and has only got 4 ADCs this turn. I'll roll for the French. French get 7 dice, 4, 5, 6, 7. French get 6 ADCs. Alright, we'll allocate our ADCs and then do initiative. Okay, I was hoping by putting lots of rerolls on my ADCs to try and make sure I won initiative, but Charlie pointed out that even if I did win the initiative, he would still be able to charge me, as unformed troops cannot charge, and he'll get the charge therefore in first against my cavalry. So I've gone for a different tactic, and I've gone for artillery fire again. Right, I'll roll for French activation, starting with my cavalry. That's active. My 2nd cavalry is also active. My artillery brigade in this village
Hesitant.
is hesitant. I'll leave the 2 there so we remember. In fact, it's already got a hesitant marker on it from last turn. The brigade in the centre here is active. My artillery reroll is active. My cavalry reserve active. My guard active. I'm talking with a marker in my teeth, that's not very helpful. Alright, the next artillery, hesitant, and hesitant. So I lose my artillery assault, and I have a second hesitant brigade, and then my brigade on the hill is active. That was a bit unfortunate, so I am on -2 on my initiative.
So now,
Charlie, let's roll for your activations.
So my cavalry, active. My infantry up here, hesitant. The infantry here, active. Artillery, active. Of artillery assault does go off still.
Yeah.
My infantry up here, active. My artillery.
And that's that
active.
brigade next to it as well.
Yep. Oh, I didn't need to roll for them, did I? Because that's from the same brigade.
Yes, that's right.
So they are. So those are active. And these active. These active. So they're not hesitant anymore. Portuguese, hesitant. The British up here are active.
Alright, so you've only got 1 hesitant brigade?
Yep.
Okay, let's roll for initiative then. French are on -2. 7.
2.
Double 1. French have initiative. Right, let's make sure we've got those markers down and start turn 6. Okay, so we've had 2 charges down here. Charlie has charged his infantry brigade forward. He can now see the French in that wheat field, and he's driven these skirmishers off. They had to take a discipline test because they were charged, as opposed to just falling back away from a formed enemy unit, approaching them in a normal move, which is what we were doing on the other side of the table. Here it was actually a charge, so the skirmishers had to pass a discipline test, which they did, and they fell back. If they fail, they take 1d3 casualties. And over here, Charlie's light dragoons have charged my unformed heavy dragoons. So we'll do another charge reaction here. We are both supported, so we both potentially get a reroll. Alright, Charlie, let's roll our basic dice. I get a 4, 5. Charlie gets an 8. I'm going to do my reroll. That's better, I get a 7.
I'm going to be on my 3.
You sure, Charlie? The odds might not be in your favour. Well, the odds are slightly in your favour. 3, same. Okay, so charge results. So Charlie, you are
High morale.
high morale because you're a grenadier, so you get a morale bonus. So you're on 9.
I'm attaching my
You're
general.
attaching your general, makes you up to a 10. You are nothing, and no casualties. I start on a 7. I'm heavy cavalry, so I add 1, that makes me an 8. But I'm campaign cavalry, which makes me a 7. I'm unformed, which makes me a 5. And I've actually got a narrower frontage. No, we've got the same frontage. So I'm on a 5, and you're on a 10. So I lose by 5. So again, melee with Elan, defender melees unformed.
You lose by 5?
Yeah, 3 to 5 is the same result as last time. So you get Elan again. Okay.
I'm going to fire my skirmishers at you.
Okay, firing skirmishers at my brigade and my battalion, left-hand battalion in the field. No
Nothing.
casualties. You can fire your infantry
Yeah.
battalion using a, what do you call it? An inferior volley.
Just go something.
Like me.
12!
Wow, that's good. So 12 on an inferior volley is 4 casualties and a discipline test on me. Then we'll put a marker down and we'll do the discipline test. Double 1.
That's a rout.
That's a rout. That's not good news. I'll just implement that result. Okay, so that was quite complicated. So we got a volley, which did 4 casualties and a discipline test. The discipline test was failed by rolling a double 1, so they then retreated and taken an extra d3 casualties. They took 1, so they are on now 5 casualties and have fallen back behind the building. But as Charlie pointed out, he did roll a double 6, so he's now got a destiny test to take. Let's see what the destiny test is. 7. That's not too bad. It's the very high or the very low that are very bad. Okay, recover 1 casualty, or change formation, or melee with a lan.
I'm just gonna stay.
Stay where you are. All right.
Now my artillery.
Yeah.
They're gonna fire.
Okay, at those guys, long range.
2 dice.
2 dice.
8.
And 8 is
artillery.
1 casualty.
Artillery assault.
Yeah.
1
2 casualties. We'll go mark those. This battalion really are seriously
How many
pounded.
casualties do they
They've now got 10 casualties.
Oh, this cannon's gonna shoot at them, so they might.
Yeah, I think you can. Yeah, I think they're still the closest target. Let's roll those.
Can I quickly shoot my skirmishers?
Yeah.
So 3 dice.
3 dice there. Yeah.
1 casualty.
Was it? 1?
Yeah, I got 1 6.
Okay. That's 1 base gone.
My artillery up there.
Yeah.
5 is nothing.
Phew. I think it's half a casualty at long range, Charlie.
Oh yeah. Cocked. Casualty.
Wow.
11.
They are in serious trouble. All
My
right.
skirmishers. 3 dice.
Yeah.
Because they're large, so.
Yeah.
1 casualty.
But you're firing at skirmishers though, so it's only 2 dice.
No, because they're 4 dice, because they're big.
3 or 4 bases is normally 3 dice,
Okay.
and you lose 1 for skirmishers.
Well, 1 casualty still.
Okay. All right.
Then they only get 2 dice.
Yeah. Nothing.
Nothing.
And those ones there, 2 dice.
1 casualty.
Okay.
My artillery up here.
I think these skirmishers probably have to be off to the side because you're too close to me.
My artillery
One there.
is going to fire
Yeah.
at your.
Artillery. 5. That's 3. So that's a fatigue casualty on that gun.
That's 3. Oh, yeah.
Because you're firing at unlimbered artillery. All right. Time for the French. Okay, let's start at this end of the table. I'm going to fire 2 skirmisher bases at that infantry battalion. So that will be 2 dice. That's 1 casualty against that
First
battalion.
casualty.
Yeah. This one will fire at your skirmisher screen. A standard volley. A 6.
I think that's just nothing.
Nothing probably. 6 from a standard volley. Isn't that 1 cash? Oh, against skirmishers is -2, so lose fire discipline. Okay.
Skirmishers.
Skirmishers, yeah, so 2 dice against your rifles. I think.
Same thing.
I'll do all my skirmishers
2
first.
dice.
Yeah, 2 dice against your skirmishers. Nothing.
Artillery.
I'll do all my skirmishers first. Next skirmisher one, up past that artillery on the hill. 1 casualty. And then 1 dice for my last skirmisher screen, which doesn't do anything. Alright, French artillery. Firing, well, we'll check the ranges. We may be getting close to close range. Okay, so opening fire with my artillery on this hill. We'll fire at the Portuguese battalion that's not screened by my own skirmisher screen. So that's the one in front of the general with his hat in his hand. 10. That's quite good, isn't it, Charlie? We're just going to get the table. Sorry, it's a long way down the table to get the results. I can't remember what a 10 is. A 10 at close range is 4 casualties and a
What one are
discipline
you
test.
shooting at?
The one in front of the general holding his hat in the air.
The one in front, this one.
Yeah, so that's 4 casualties on them and a discipline test.
They're lucky.
How many casualties have they got?
8.
8. Okay, so that's a discipline test at -2 though. Oh, retreat.
They're better. That's actually better for them. So then,
They can fall back behind that other battalion.
yeah, can they actually go? Like,
Yeah, they can go up to 45 degrees and they're unformed and put a retreat marker on them.
at least now they're more safe.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, we will fire. We're going to go after the green target because it's our favourite battalion and we want to try and take it out with these 2 batteries in the centre. Did they have infantry assault on them? Artillery assault on them?
These ones, no.
I think they did, that's why all
No,
those dice are there.
It didn't go off.
That was that one there, wasn't it?
No, that one was, well, it didn't go off, and I don't remember.
Okay. Alright, we won't do it. Ah, fatigue
It's better for
casualty.
you, actually, Dad.
It is actually in result. And then the other battery gets a 6
That's
at effective
half
range. Is
casualty.
1 casualty at effective range. Alright. And then my final battery, which will go at the 95th Rifles again, at long
Long range.
range. 7 is a half a casualty. 2, nothing. Alright, I'll mark that casualty up on the artillery battery and then we'll do close assault. Okay, so as Charlie pointed out, I shouldn't need to calculate it. It's exactly the same as last time. I get 5 dice, Charlie gets 7. Hopefully I can be as lucky again. Perhaps I can. 4 casualties.
The British got 5.
The British got 5. British win by 1. I will retreat this time. And we'll move the units. Okay, on we go with turn 7. We're going to have a break after this turn 7 for a cup of tea. But we'll do turn 7. So, ADCs. You get 1 to start with, Charlie.
Oh, yeah.
And then roll 7 now, because you have 7 brigades on table.
That's more like it.
And then roll 4 more dice, 3 more dice for your off-table brigades. 3, because one of
yeah.
them's now on table. So that's 1 more. I get 7. Not very good. I get 4. Let's 4 dice, 4 ADCs for the French. Let's allocate those ADCs. So I've allocated most of my ADCs as brigade rerolls because I want to rally my retreating units and I want to try and be able to get the initiative because I want to move my very damaged infantry battalion that's right out in the front out of the line of fire. So I'll start rolling for my brigades first. My
Cavalry.
French dragoons are hesitant. Then my French dragoons with a reroll are active. So they're no longer retreating, they are simply unformed.
The French battalion army. What's behind that?
Yeah. Then doing the brigade in the village are active. So they're no longer retreating. But are still unformed. Then we'll carry on along the line. My brigade in the centre, these have got a reroll. Active. My infantry brigade in the centre is hesitant. I'll leave a dice next to them. My guard cavalry are active. My guard foot are active. My
3 not
brigade
guard
over
foot.
here are active. I'll leave
It's
this
good that your
hesitant
guard foot
first.
active, but it's annoying because it can't move or do anything really.
And then my brigade over here are active. And actually it's an artillery brigade, so the infantry don't need a separate roll. They are hesitant as well, so the artillery and the infantry behind them are both hesitant. So I will be on -2.
This infantry, active. This infantry, active. I put artillery assault on the wrong one. Supposed to put it on this one. I always put it on.
Okay.
Wait, this one's be active, so I don't.
Because you've rolled for that brigade already, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Wait, so I have a spare ADC again.
You do have a spare ADC.
So I might pick it on them.
Okay.
So now this artillery
Uh,
active. I'll roll for them. Active. Portuguese. Didn't get roll. They're active.
And the KGL?
Yeah. Hesitant. Only one hesitant.
Only one hesitant brigade. So I'm on -2 and you're on -1. Let's roll for initiative. Well, pretty good for the French, 7. But the British have initiative. Charlie, charges for you. We're just doing firing. Charlie's opened fire. He scored a 10 and knocked off one of my skirmisher bases from inside that field with his line British battalion. Now his 95th Rifles, so having a go at my battalion in the other field. 4 dice, yeah. 2 casualties on them.
I feel no. Didn't I do another casualty on them? I did. I'm very sure I did a casualty on them last time.
Sorry, Charlie, I can't remember. I think we'll just leave it at the moment. 2 on them.
We'll say goodbye to your battalion with 11 casualties. My artillery's going to fire at them.
Okay, you're going to get a double one. No, that's
7.
That's half a casualty, so 4, 5, or 6.
Casualty, they're gone.
Alright, so that will be a falter test on that brigade for me. What you do
I'll
now?
just roll because it had artillery assault, so I will.
Oh, right, okay.
And there have been 2 casualties. Now this battery, I'm going to fire at the one behind them.
Okay.
Long range, 10.
Alright, we'll just look that one up.
2
And we'll get a
casualties.
Fulton marker.
Okay, if it's 2 casualties.
Alright, Charlie, that's that artillery battery fired. Do you want to do your last artillery battery?
Up here.
You've got these 95th rifles to fire as well, haven't you?
I have 3 dice.
Yeah.
1 casualty.
Okay.
And my troops up here.
Yeah.
2 dice.
2 dice.
Nothing. Up here, my skirmish is firing at your artillery. 3 dice. 4 dice because they're shooting at a normal. Just 3 dice. Just 3 dice.
It's 3 dice, but you've got 1 that's firing against my skirmishers, so you get 2 dice against the artillery.
He's turned.
Yeah, but I've still got a bit of a skirmish screen in front of him. He would fire at the skirmishers that are closer to him. So 2 dice at the artillery, and then 1 at the skirmishers.
He can't because he can't shoot in his own. It
Oh,
needs to be
that's
2
true.
bases.
Okay,
So
that's
I should have rolled 3.
I think that's fine. You do well enough. And then 3 dice,
shooting
because you're shooting at skirmishers or a unit in cover. Which one are you firing at?
The unit.
Okay, it doesn't make any difference.
My artillery up here is going to fire.
Yeah.
Could it fire a column?
I don't know whether it can fire at anything, Charlie. Now I think you've screened it.
I might just limber it.
Okay, we'll get the limbers out. Next turn.
And remember your falter test.
Oh,
Should
yeah,
I put a falter on then?
I've put the falter down. I've got my shooting. Alright, I'm going to fire my 2 skirmishers at your skirmisher.
No.
Nothing. I'm going to fire my 3 skirmishers at your skirmisher. 1 casualty. It's 1 base gone, is it? Yeah. Alright. Then down here, 3 skirmishers at your skirmisher line. Nothing. Against your 95th rifles. Nothing. Against your line battalion. Nothing. Then I've got normal firing. Opening fire with this battalion against your 95th rifles through the skirmisher screen. So the skirmishers will take the first casualty. 4. I think that's not inferior. That's a standard volley, but that'll be nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing.
All right. Okay. Then over here, we'll have to do my artillery here against that green battalion.
You really like that green battalion, don't you?
No, that'll be nothing.
That's a fatigue casualty.
No, it's not. It's 3s for a fatigue casualty. Okay, here we're going to fire shrapnel against your infantry battalion
What
and
does
its
shrapnel
screen.
do?
Or canister, rather.
It's
just close range fire.
It's exact
So
same.
firing close range fire. Ah, that's terrible. A 4, I don't think it'll be anything.
No.
So that's that battery, that battery. Have I fired with this battery down here? I don't think I did I? I think I just fired with all my skirmishers. So firing this battery will go against the 95th rifles.
But it does get skirmish to take the first shot.
If it's a close or effective range, I'll check that.
It's at effective range.
I think it's probably still at long range. We'll check it anyway. Okay, we've stopped for tea break. I'll just do a quick recap of where we are. So here on the British left flank, we've got the British Light Cavalry Brigade that's arrived. It's fought a couple of combats now. It's in pretty good state. Facing off against it, we've got 2 French Dragoon brigades, one of which has been reasonably damaged following its combat with the British Light Dragoons. Against the right-hand village, French still not in too bad a position. They still hold the village. There's a battalion in there. The battalion that was pushed back by the 28th Gloucesters have reformed behind the village to provide some support. We still have some skirmishers and another line battalion in the field, and a fairly well protected artillery battery in the centre. We have a brigade here that's faltering. I wasn't able to extricate the front battalion that's taken unmerciful fire from the British. Been picked on, a bit like its opponent, the 95th Rifles, which has also taken a lot of casualties from artillery fire. So that'll be a falter test for me next turn. In the centre, things are hotting up a bit. The combined French artillery has proved quite effective here at whittling the British down. They've lost 1 battalion. Charlie is already voluntarily not advancing with the 2nd battalion because of the level of casualties they've got, and his line is just forming up against the hedgerow. I'm thinking about reinforcing the front line. I've formed 2 battalions into column. next turn with the idea of doing a bit of a counter-attack over here. Might also push forward in the centre with this brigade if it survives its Halter test, because Charlie is actually quite weak in the centre. These units have taken quite a few casualties. There's the 95th Rifles. Although that is an elite battalion that's sitting back there in reserve for Charlie. As we move on to the left flank, again the French position's not looking too bad. This battalion probably will need to be withdrawn. It's probably going to be charged by the Portuguese this turn, so I might pull back with that one. But we still hold this village with plenty of supports. Neither the KGL battalions have taken many casualties, but the Portuguese aren't in a great shape. So all in all, so far so good. As long as I can keep the British at range, my artillery superiority is doing damage. It's once they start getting in close and volleying. And I still feel nervous because Charlie has still not brought on his heavy cavalry, and he does have another British infantry brigade in reserve that he can bring on later in the game. Alright, a quick flyby, and it's time for tea. Right, back with turn 7. Okay, let's roll for initiative at the beginning of turn 8. Charlie.
Between ADCs.
EDCs, yeah.
Ooh, most of mine only one myth. I get automatic ADC.
Yeah,
I've got
and then
all
you've
of them.
got 3 off table and then for the French. Oh, you got all of them.
I need to see if I get one more. I didn't get that.
No, you only get 3 extra because remember
Oh,
the one's
yeah.
on the table, so take one of those out.
No, I was going to see if I rolled 4.
Yeah, but you only rolled a 4th and then you added it in.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I only have, this is all my dice.
Right.
And I re-rolled one of them.
Okay, so I've got 5 and you've got
All of
quite a
mine.
lot. Okay, let's roll for activation. We'll start with the French. Their 1st Dragoon Regiment is active. Their rear Dragoon Regiment is hesitant. Leave that dice beside them. Their brigade in the village is active. Pop that hesitant. Oh, I'm going to send a hesitant marker under the road. Woo! So these guys are hesitant. Alright, and these ones are active. Okay, then my faltering brigade.
So do the faltering brigade.
3. Let's check, see what 3 is. Too bad a result, but a retire is a 12-inch retreat, or a 12-inch retire, and that would take me off the A-table edge. So we're going to have to risk it and go for a re-roll. I want a 4 or better.
2.
Ah,
It's
even worse. The French lose that brigade.
That's the exact same, one of the worst.
One of the worst. We'll carry on with activations. Okay, our artillery brigade is active. Our reserve cavalry are active. Our guard are active. Our brigade on the hill, which have got a reroll, are active. And the brigade in the far village are active. Great dice rolls, apart from the one I needed. Okay, so I think I've only got 1 hesitant brigade, Charlie.
No,
Your activations.
there's a reroll and these I just have to take the dice.
Okay.
So they're active.
Yeah.
British up here. With a reroll, active.
Yeah.
My British troops up here, then the same troop as the artillery,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
they're active, so
Okay.
artillery shot does go off.
Yeah.
Now my troop here, with a reroll, active.
The big brigade in the middle. No reroll.
No reroll. Hesitant. Portuguese, active.
KGL.
KGL, active. Now
And then your
my
reserve
reinforced
infantry brigade.
comes on.
What did you get?
Got a 5.
Okay, so I think we've both got 1 hesitant brigade. So initiative, both at -1. I get 6.
I get
11. British get to bring on their reserves. Okay, so that was a bit of a tragedy for the French. We were doing pretty well, and we could not maintain our centre. So Charlie's destroyed that foremost brigade and is looking to exploit into that gap. Luckily I've got my reserves near at hand, so should be able to plug that gap temporarily. Charlie has also brought his reserve brigade on now, here in the centre. So it looks like he's going for a full central attack, no subtlety. Alright, We'll move on with charges in turn 8. British to go first. Okay, charges are complete. The KGL have charged into the village on the right flank, and they're supported by the Portuguese, who've charged forward and driven in the British skirmishers. Otherwise, all along the line, the British are either hesitant or waiting for the movement phase. On the far right flank of the French, the next wave of French dragoons has charged in against British light dragoons. So we'll see how this struggle unfolds on the right flank. We'll move on with normal movement. We'll do the charge result first. Charlie's gone off to YouTube, so I'll be rolling for both, and he'll be providing periodic orders. Alright, so 8 for the French, 7 for the Allies. Let's just look at the charge modifiers. Okay, starting with the French first. We have... Okay, so starting with the French, we've got an 8. They are heavy cavalry, that makes it a 9. We both have the same frontage. I'll look at things. But I am campaign cavalry, so that makes me back to an 8. Charlie has 4 casualties, which will apply to his. So French finish on 8. British are on 7. They're grenadiers, so that takes them a morale category up, so they go also up to 8. But they have that 1 casualty, so it takes them back down to 7. And that's it. So the French charge result is +1. So it's a melee and a counter charge. So a straightforward melee here. We'll move the troops into contact and do that in the combat phase. Right, so quite a lot of movement on turn 8. We'll start from the British left flank and work our way across the battlefield. On the far left, we've got the cavalry melee about to take place. The British battalions in the wheat field have stayed in position, will volley the French next turn. The 95th Rifles have moved up and will do an inferior volley, and the skirmishers have redeployed themselves so they can start shooting at that French artillery battery. In the centre, the 95th Rifles and the light battalion of Scots have moved forward. They've been countered by the French starting to redeploy their reserve, so King Joseph's Guard Horse Lancers have moved around to threaten the 95th Rifles next turn. Meanwhile, the 2 skirmish screens for the French brigade on the hill and the 95th Rifles are now facing off to partly shield the French artillery positions on the hill. In the rear of the French Joseph's Royal Guard is starting to redeploy to plug the gap that was caused by the retreat of its brigade to the Fulter test. In the centre, the French have started moving 2 battalions up to the hill to reinforce the line of their artillery and to potentially start providing some support to threaten the flank of the Portuguese, who moved up into the gap. And we have the hand-to-hand combat to take place in the village on the right. For the British, the reserve brigade is still holding its position to decide where to deploy itself next turn. Alright, on with shooting. Shooting down here against the French skirmish screen, superior roll. We roll a 7 for the British. Right table. On a 7 for a superior volley is 3 casualties. You take that down by 2 because you're firing at skirmishers. So it goes to 1 casualty at skirmishers. And then takes them on to 3. That means they lose a base and their skirmish screen is down to 1 base, which means it effectively evaporates as you cannot have a 1 base skirmish screen. Okay, now firing an inferior volley with the 95th Rifles against the French deployed in the wheat field. That was only a blocking line of sight, provides no cover, so this will just be an inferior volley as the 95th Rifles there move. They get a 10. That's pretty good for an inferior volley. That is 3 casualties and a discipline test on the French. That takes them up to 5 casualties, so this discipline test will be at -1. That'll be another retreat result. Fortunately, these ones have a an allied unit in the village to fall back behind, so they will simply fall back behind their unit in the village. Then we will fire these skirmishers, 3 dice, against the artillery battery. 1 casualty on the French artillery battery. Alright, we'll just go and move those units. Okay, firing the 95th Rifles against the French skirmishers, normally 3 dice, +1 for the 95th Rifles, and then -1 for the target-based skirmishers. That's 1 casualty against the French skirmish screen.
They've already taken 2, so we lose 1 of the bases.
Right. The 95th Rifles might try an inferior volley against the French cavalry if they're in range. I think this just counts as volley fire though, so they don't get the extended range from rifles. Oh, this is going to be very close. And I think they are by about 1 millimetre just out of range. So no firing there from the 95th Rifles. We'll now fire the skirmish screen against one of the artillery batteries. We'll go for the left-hand battery. 3 shots. 2 more casualties against the left-hand battery. I thought that one had taken some casualties. There's none marked on the table. I might have taken the away by mistake, but anyway. I'll work on the basis that our artillery, that is right. They certainly hadn't taken more than a couple. So they are on 2 casualties. Right, so that's the British skirmish screen fired there. Then we've got the Portuguese skirmish screen that will fire against it was going to fire against the artillery battery, but that pulled away. So again, we'll check the range. Yeah, it's in range. They will fire against the French Line Battalion. A 4 and a 1. No effect. Then we've got the British skirmishers. We have 3 bases firing against the French skirmishers, so 2 shots. Nothing for those. So that's all of the British foot artillery firing, skirmishers firing. The artillery battery there is screened. You can do some counter battery fire from the batteries on the hill here. We will fire both batteries against this one on the end, both firing at long range. 7 is half a casualty, and 10, that's a bit better. Now they're both at -2 actually, because it's a deploy battery. So 10 becomes an 8, that's 1 casualty. 7 becomes a 5, which is half a casualty. Okay, so that's 2 casualties on this battery. They're up to 6 now, starting to get a bit fragile. Artillery batteries generally have a 10 casualty limit before they completely disappear, and its effectiveness is degraded. I think that's all British firing. We'll now move over to the French. Okay, so we'll start with this battery here, firing at short range against that skirmish screen. Nothing else to fire at, so we'll roll for them. 7. Short range, close range, 7 is 2 casualties in the discipline test, but it's at -2 because you're firing at skirmishers. So that is 1 casualty against that skirmish screen. Let's mark that up. Put that on in a second. Okay, then down here, 2 more dice. Got the French skirmish screen firing against the 95th Rifles, 2 shots, nothing at all. Okay, then we've got this battery firing at the British in cover behind the hedge line. So it is close range fire, but the target is in cover, and the first casualty will go against those skirmishers. So a 7 becomes a 6. That's 2 casualties, so that'll be 1 on the skirmish screen and 1 on the battalion behind. Okay. Then we'll fire the next artillery battery against the other infantry battalion, I think they're... No, probably the same one is the closest target. We'll fire on the same one. 10, that's -2, is 8. That's 3 casualties and a discipline test, so that's another casualty on the skirmish screen, and 3 then casualties and a discipline test on the unit behind. come back and do that discipline test in a second. I'm just looking along for more firing. We've got a small French skirmish screen of 2 bases here. That's going to fire at the Portuguese. Nothing. Another base of 2, which will fire at the skirmishers, which is nothing. I think that's pretty much it. Then we've got closing fire from this battery against the charge of the KGL. You charge straight into buildings, so there's no charge test, so I didn't bother doing the firing at the time of the charge because I probably should have, could have resulted in a discipline test. But anyway, we'll fire that unit at close range against the KGL. We only get a 4. That won't achieve very much, if anything at all, perhaps 1 casualty. And we'll just check that. And that's the results of the French firing. Okay, so that was a pretty good result for the French. So we've caused 8 casualties now on that right-hand British infantry battalion of his brigade that was attacking in the centre. So I think we're in pretty good position to push this attack off, and probably is quite wise that Charles brought his reserves on to support the centre. Okay, we'll now get on to the hand-to-hand combat in the village, and with the dragoons over on this flank. Alright, so we'll start over here. Okay, so starting with the dragoons, French dragoons, we'll start with 5 dice. Should remember this by now. We are heavy cavalry, so we get 2 extra combat dice. These are standard units, so we don't suffer the penalty for these 2. And it's a straight roll off, and we've got no casualties. So the French get 7 dice. British start with 5, they lose 1. For the casualty they've already suffered. They are not a small unit. They are 1 morale grade better, but no casualties. Alright, so bit of an advantage here for the French, a couple of extra dice. So for the British, wow, good roll. 4 casualties on the French, and then for the French, pretty good roll. 5 casualties on the British. Okay, so the French win the combat by 1. We'll apply the results. Okay, and we'll now do the combat right over on the other side of the table. I think both battalions are pretty much undamaged. KGL, by the look of it, have no casualties, as do the French. Alright. Let's just roll up then. So both start with 5 dice. For the French, 5 for the British. Assaulting a bit area, the British lose a dice. Both are the same morale grade, they're both standard units. No one's got any casualties. Attacking a built-up area, we've done. That's it. Okay, let's roll off for the French. 5 dice. Good result. Calls 4 casualties on the British. Great result. British calls 4 casualties back. That's a draw. They have the option of fighting a second round of combat. Okay, well, we'll fight the second round of combat. Both get a second battalion they can throw in. So they get 5 dice. There's no penalty for the second round of fighting in built-up area, but both sides have suffered 4 casualties in their first battalion, so both should have 9 dice, which is indeed what we got. For all the French, critical combat, not very good. 3 casualties caused by the French, and then by the British. Much better, they've clearly won. 4, 5, 6, 7 casualties. That's a win by 4. Infantry in the built-up area. Winner takes the ground, and the French forces retreat.